Today we're looking at mobile games. Yes, you can use that barrel, it's been thoroughly scraped. I love PlayStation, but even I will admit they are the most antisocial nerds when it comes to releasing products outside of the PlayStation ecosystem. That's why it's so surprising then that they have a long history of releasing games on mobile phones, and as you can probably deduce from the title, that history is questionable to say the least. Their first foray into mobile gaming was on flip phones and weapons of mass destruction in the early 2000s, with the games Ratchet Clank going mobile and God of War Betrayal. Going mobile is a 2D thing that released on flip phones. I've never played it, and from what I've heard, that's a good thing. Well, your Helen Keller ass heard wrong, because it and God of War were two of the best games on the flip phone. I mean, that's like calling yourself a fighting champion because you beat up some toddlers. Still take a lot of pride in it though, but it's still a huge feat. They distilled the core gameplay dynamics of the main games into a 2D platforming form, with Ratchet having some gunplay and God of War with some hack and slash. They weren't completely faithful, like Ratchet doesn't tell everyone he wants to be a hero every 5 minutes, but otherwise they're basically these franchises if they were made on an 80s system. They're great. So of course, they capitalized on this success by doing what now? Yeah, they just reached the top and thought, well, that was fun, let's go make the iToy. I mean, they did release a few more games, but they didn't receive anywhere near the same amount of effort and care. Like Buzz the Mobile Quiz, a competent quiz game, I guess, but putting it on a flip phone is kind of missing the point of the series, no? And probably the most questionable I played, Ape Escape M, a remake of Ape Escape 1, you know, a 3D platformer, on a device that can't handle 3D platformers, so instead is a top-down adventure thing, thus removing like 80% of the gameplay. I mean, it's alright for what it is, but the English translation, Jesus fuck. I have never seen a worse translation in a game published by a major publisher. I don't know what a Dostanesh is, all I know is I'm not it apparently. I'm convinced they did the translation on the flip phone, meaning via phone call, because Spike is referred to as Spike in this, which is literally what Spike sounds like in some accents. Moving on from this train wreck, their next proper effort came in 2009. This was a time when smartphones and iPods were rising in popularity. Baby boomers the world over were terrified. I know I made that joke in my 3D platformer documentary, but that's because this was no joke, and Sony knew that. That's why they launched their answer to App Store games, PlayStation Minis. Launching on the PSP, Minis were like the smartphone and iPod games in that they're simple experiences designed for brief, on-the-go sessions, which is why they were also released on the PS3. These games flopped, only selling 1 million copies in the first year, and if you Google PlayStation Minis today, most of the results will be of the PlayStation Classic. I guess size does matter, because every mini version of PlayStation sucks. No, I actually did like a lot of minis, but I get why they failed. First, most of the games were in the price range of like £1 to £3, or to translate that to people with no universal healthcare, $2 to $4. I only want old people to run my country. This was a problem because why would I pay a few bucks for Floating Cloud God Saves the Pilgrims when I can get Robot Unicorn Attack 2 for free, a game of the same quality, even better in my opinion. This was amplified by the fact that some minis were also available on smartphones and iPods for free, so other than some creep that must play Angry Birds on the PS Vita, why would anyone go for the minis version? I think this was also a demographics and purpose thing. People play this type of game because they're time wasters, easily accessed from a device that they have in their pocket anyway. People aren't buying a PlayStation to press a single button over and over. Well, maybe they are. They're getting it to play grand, fleshed out adventures. There's some exceptions, of course. I have this video from my teenage years where I recorded myself playing one of the minis. This is how I spent my spare time in 2012 apparently. No wonder I was swimming in bitches. But most normal people weren't interested. Luckily, Sony learned from this mistake and never did anything like this ever again. Ah, shit. In 2012, Sony launched PlayStation Mobile for PS Vita, this bitch, I've talked about you before, Sony smartphones, and later select third-party smartphones, and then after that some more select third-party smartphones. Why you like this? It bombed even harder than Minis did, for the exact same reasons Minis did, charging for games available for free elsewhere, releasing on systems people buy for more fleshed out experiences, or in this case, systems people didn't buy at all, and also just lacking any standout games. It bombed so hard that they did something unprecedented. So a lot of games get removed from the PlayStation Store over time, but if you bought them before their removal, you can still re-download them from your purchase history. PlayStation mobile games though, they nuked all of them. Like even if you bought the game, you could no longer download it. I had 20 plus of these on my Vita. Yes ladies, my DMs are open, but because I had to reset my memory stick due to some issues, I have now lost all of them forever. Fake motherfuckers cry about PT being lost, real gangsters cry about Penguin Party. So, PlayStation's software attempts at tackling the mobile world weren't doing so well, so a year prior, in 2011, they decided to approach it head on with the release of the Xperia Play, some unholy, incest hellspawn of a smartphone and PSP. It mostly functioned as a normal smartphone, but at any time you could slide out a PSP controller with which you could play games from the App Store, the aforementioned PlayStation mobile games, as well as some exclusive games like Crash Bandicoot. Because of its incest design, South Americans loved it, but elsewhere it existed, I guess. Like, it was well received and didn't sell terribly, but it didn't really go anywhere because there was really no reason to own one. If you wanted a smartphone, there were much stronger options out there. If you wanted a portable PlayStation, you could just get the PlayStation Portable, or the PS Vita releasing later that year. Although considering no one bought the PS Vita, I guess people did prefer the Xperia Play. I mean, I'm not in a position to judge people on what they like to do in their spare time, so sure. Speaking of the Vita though, Sony clearly started thinking outside of the box with these mobile ventures, because the Vita launched with a 3G model. You combine this with the fact the Vita had a Skype app that allowed you to call any phone number, and you could technically use your PS Vita as a phone. Imagine your dick being so big that when you exchange numbers with a girl, you hand her this. Notoriously, this feature bombed because the 3G was provided by AT&T, making it about as useful as my Spanish copy of Ratchet Clank All for One. This brings us to their modern smartphone outings. The iToy money had run out, so rather than being able to experiment with their own ideas, they had to start releasing games the traditional way, via stores like Google Play. Could this be a top 10 anime redemption arc, or will this be the disastrous conclusion of a harrowing tragedy? Let's look at a bunch of the games to find out. Ratchet & Clank Before the Nexus is an endless runner based on Ratchet & Clank. You swap between your usual 3-lane structure and these more open sections focused on shooting and dodging incoming fire. It's great. You can also earn Raritanium that you can transfer to the console release into the Nexus. However, considering Raritanium is easy as hell to get in that game, this is about as useful as my Spanish copy of Crash Bandicoot The Wrath of Cortex. And also my English copy. Also, this game opened my breakout video ranking every Ratchet & Clank game. So yeah, it's a masterpiece. Run Sackboy Run is an endless runner based on Little Big Planet. As a Forrest Gump fan, I was very disappointed. As a Little Big Planet fan, sure. Its floaty platforming and creative environments are captured perfectly here, and I really like how, unlike many other endless runners where the platforming is just swiping between predetermined arcs, you actually control the height you jump here based on how long you hold the touchscreen, and there's numerous directions you can take on a vertical plane, all culminating in one of the more open endless runners I've played. However, after a few rounds, I felt little incentive to keep playing. I guess it doesn't have an interesting progression system, and I guess I could analyze that, but does anyone really give a shit? PlayStation AllStars Battle Royale, PlayStation's most notorious exclusive until June 2020. Everyone has a theory why this failed. It's just a poor man's Smash Bros. Its roster lacked essential characters like Crash and Spyro. A third example I can't bring myself to say because fuck all of you, this is a good game. All interesting theories, but the real reason it failed is it wasn't sponsored by Coca-Cola. Luckily, the creators realized this and released PlayStation All-Stars Island, sponsored by Coke Zero. It features 4 games, an endless runner based on Uncharted, an endless runner based on Gravity Rush, an endless runner based on Infamous, and, you guessed it, a racing game based on Little Big Planet. Other than the visual of Nathan Drake risking his life for Coca-Cola, these are pretty standard fare endless runners. Even with the mini-games they interject occasionally for variety's sake, these get repetitive fast. I did quite like the Gravity Rush one because, as one of 5 people who liked Gravity Rush, seeing its unique gravity shifting concept and environments applied to this format made this stand out a bit compared to other endless runners. I'm sure this multi-directional style has been done before, but as one of 2 people who liked both Gravity Rush and PlayStation AllStars, let me have this. What I don't want to have is more endless runners. What else you got, Sony? PS Vita Pets Puppy Parlor. Fuck. I mean, for what it is not the worst thing ever. There's a lot of mini games with some getting fairly challenging for the target audience, and me, and there's a fair amount to do, what with the ability to upgrade the shop and look after your dog and stuff, but it's ultimately just a generic Nintendogs ripoff. So going with this instead of a Vita IP that actually stands out is bizarre to me. Same case with Invisimal's Battle Hunters, PlayStation's response to Pokemon. This series has always tried to hide this by forcing in this augmented reality gimmick, but ultimately the creature fighting is shallow and way too easy, and I've honestly already forgotten what you do in the rest of the game. The most fun I got out of this was calling my character Massive Cock and then seeing this tool call me Massive Cock. That's not even funny, and yet it's still the most joy I got from this. Whoa, a generic white man! It's Uncharted! A good game, finally! Uncharted Fortune Hunter is a discount version of a Lara Croft game on the same platform, just like the main games. It's a puzzle game where you move across tiles to reach the end without touching a dangerous tile. Jokes aside, it really is just a discount version of Lara Croft Go, because it has the same general mechanics and level design, but not as inspired. There is some good stuff in here. There's these turrets that rotate 90 degrees for every step you take, so you have to think ahead about where the turret is going to shoot, and Sully's dialogue is just like the main games. I have been referred to as kid more in this game than in my actual childhood, but overall, just buy Lara Croft Go, dude. Journey on iOS. On console, Journey is a mesmerising adventure where every frame of the gameplay is designed around its enchanting visuals and grandiose melodies, culminating in a crescendo of sensory beauty that is proof gaming is art. So, how does that translate to a portable public setting? And that sums up their smartphone games in a nutshell, because most of the good games they released here are also available on their main systems. Bentley's Hack Pack, a twin-stick shooter and occasional motion-controlled hell. Entwined Challenge, a version of that twin-stick rhythm game that everyone thought was kinda cool when they debuted it at E3 but then no one bought. Counter Spy, a stylish 2D stealth game. These are all really fun. But much more fun on the PS4, 3 and or Vita, where you can play them with physical controls and trophies. But what if we reverse that? That leads us to our final example, Remote Play. Originally debuting on my phone, well technically the PSP, but we don't talk about that. It supported like 8 games, it was just awful, dude. Remote Play is a fantastic feature that broadcasts your PS4 to your phone and lets you play it on that device, and not just in your house, but absolutely anywhere. Like, if your PS4 is in Guatemala and you go on holiday to Antarctica, you'd be able to play a PS4 in Antarctica on your phone as long as both systems have good internet. This sounds like the setup of a math question. Again, though, even this has its flaws. Like I said, you need a great internet connection on both sides for this to even function, and most countries just haven't progressed that far. Australia only just got gay rights, NAC 2 on the iPhone is completely out of the question. And in the few places this is doable, it's still a meh experience. Remote Play works so well on the Vita because the system has built-in controls, so it's not as great on phones because you either play with a touchscreen, which sucks ass, or have to carry a controller around with you, which kinda misses the point of playing it portably, no? So, to me, se supone que no debes entender esto, nurse. In conclusion, though, PlayStation's history on phones is indeed questionable. They started off nailing the market with 2 of the platform's best games to this day, but then went off a cliff with bomb after bomb, culminating in their smartphone output of safe, uninspired slogs. Overall though, I respect it. Yeah, their later flip phone and smartphone games were sketchy and generic respectively, but most of their efforts in this market were very ambitious. Projects like PlayStation Minis and PlayStation Mobile were some of the earliest efforts by a major company to help indie developers release their products, and while they weren't as successful as similar projects at the time like the Wii Shop and Steam's support of indie games, the effort was there, and it definitely paved the way for the thriving indie market of today, if not by success, by precedent. To put it in the most cliche, fucking stupid way possible, minis and mobile worked so modern indie gaming could run. That's like the millennial version of live, laugh, love, fucking hell. And that ties it into the overarching theme of this trilogy, the ambition of PlayStation. It's easy to forget this because nowadays, most of their flagship titles are over-the-shoulder movies where everyone talks like they just had tonsil surgery, but when you look at Sony's contributions to the gaming landscape, I'd say the biggest is that innovative software. Games that defined the generation, games that try to do things that's never been seen before. Indeed, to a fault sometimes. Thank you, Gravity Rush 2. When you look at Nintendo and Xbox, they're very much focused on legacy. Nintendo always expanding existing franchises and Xbox emphasizing backwards compatibility. And while those are great and just as valid, I love PlayStation because of their commitment to bringing new worlds to life. Be it a Fox thing saving the universe with bizarre gadgets, Triple H abusing his child, or a world made out of paper where you can customize things like the cloud, allowing me to create this, gaming has provided so many amazing memories that can't be done in any other medium. And PlayStation's understanding of this and continued attempts to provide this are why they'll always be one of my favourite entertainment brands. Well, I didn't plan for the point of this trilogy to be hail the $1 billion corporation. If I'm having sex and she isn't yelling Mark Cerny's name, I get dressed immediately. Like, no, but a lot of normal people work for them and have had a huge impact on my life and probably yours too, so I just think that's worthy of appreciation, even when the projects don't always land. But yeah, a playlist will appear on screen in a second with this trilogy in, so if you want to rewatch all 3 videos now you've got the entire context, then that's there. Either way, from myself, the bitch ass hoe, and the one who doesn't want to live anymore, thanks for watching. Dun 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 dun.